I'm having dinner at the park. Yeah. Today I was studying banking. So I am starting a series like Come Learn With Me sessions. And it's like, ooh, if I say like one more time. The learning how the administration process goes, because a lot of people don't have to understand them. And I have a paralegal background, secretary, assistant, private assistant, small business assistant, and a lot of everything boils down to accounting and contracts. And when it comes to administration, it just means that you're doing your due diligence, making sure that you are staying on top of your affairs, especially when you're dealing with your trust and estate affairs. And with you having to learn how to balance between both worlds of public and private is a very soliloquy of a line dance at the circus. That's what I got in my head. And I just smoked probably like I had some trees probably like 20 minutes ago. So it's sticking in and I'm sleeping. And I had a great study session. Shout out to this bomb ass day. The fuck? Excuse me. So with the administration process, when you're going through the mail, because going through the mail, especially through register mail, for one, it gives insurance, but it gives a signature at each postal marking along its route from the origin up until the commencement of its arrival to where it's going. And when you do register mail, it's also another form of a witness. So that register mail number also look into the Securities exchange. Cause I've been doing a lot of lately researching, like researching 1800s. I wonder if I got screen share on here. Can I screen share? I'm gonna have to figure that out. I probably can't. I don't know. I ain't tried it. Because I got a lot of information. I got banking, paper currencies, banking manuals, trust, negotiable instruments, law merchant, the uniform commercial, United States Constitution, which is the trust, it's a trust indenture, but it's not the trust indenture, it's the Constitution is like the conception of the trust. So when you're doing a lot of studying, especially when it comes to the monies, currencies, banking, things of that nature, it's best to get a hold of information that's pre-1933, because that was before the inception of the corporation United States as a corporation versus the republic. Because when they came over here from England, there was already a Confederate running Iroquois, I want to say. Was it Iroquois? Because it was like Massachusetts where they landed at Mayflower, Plymouth Rock, all that blase split. We had the Pilgrims and the Puritans. The Puritans, the one that did the massacre. The Pilgrims is more so based on Thanksgiving. And upon their arrival, they needed a lot of help, and the melanated ones that was already here gave them a lot of the assistance, like chicken pox, and teaching them a lot of the basics because they were from a different climate, so teaching them how to adapt and adjust to a different environment and climate. And along with that came learning the laws of this new climate and environment, and how things were conducted, and how the affairs were managed, executed, enforced. So that's what the county was, where all the sovereign would keep records. And a lot of this I learned from reading Black Law's 4th edition. I was a victim of human trafficking for like 14 months. And like I said, I already had pre-exposure to law at like 15. My formal like introduction to it was in high school. I had criminal civil law class. However, I was raised around law because of my parents, mainly my father. He was raised Jehovah's Witness, and my grandmother told him and my aunt, I think he said when he was like 13, that they were free to go explore themselves spiritually. So because of that, my dad told me that he had a spiritual awakening around when he was 21, and we were raised with that evolving and evolution of a very powerful masculine man who was still learning his powers and stepping into his powers, and also had to understand the trauma and the burden that came with it, and not having the necessary tools to heal and pull the necessary wisdom out of that is what caused things to not transpire the way that what I would have caused supposed to, but everything happened the way that it should have. So going back to the county, that's where the sovereigns kept the records. And so because of my dad exploring his spirituality, we were raised around Native and going to powwows and Native American priests, and going to mosque, and around Islams, and oh my goodness, there's so many different cultures. So it's like understanding, growing up going to powwows and sitting up under chiefs and not knowing the magnitude of who this individual is as a child, and then growing up and learning, oh, the chief is the head. So as a child gaining all this wisdom, but I don't have the application of that knowledge. I'm just gaining the wisdom and understanding that where the sovereigns would keep their documents, it helps me understand growing up, like, oh, that's why they would commune together, and a lot of us would sit at the elders' feet and have that oral history upon which most of the time it was the matriarch, the grandmother. She was speaking oral history, and we would sit, and that would come into our DNA, and we would gain understanding from the knowledge that was coming through her as an oracle, as a vessel. And things would be recorded and scribed. So that came about the record keeping and the history keeping and the family Bibles, but it was really the family records, the family clandestines. So when we already had, and please understand, like, this is like a surface, this is a whole series that I'm gonna go into. I've been given this years ago, and now it's like coming out now, so just please bear with me, because it's a lot of information and it's a bit overwhelming because I'm also very sensitive to knowledge. I'm very like claircognizant, is that the one? I have very strong claircognizant, like I just know stuff because ancestors and spirits like give me information. I don't have to go looking for nothing. So with the record keeping, this ties into the birth records and how they were usurped, because there were multiple behind closed door meetings moving forward from when they came over here in the early 1700s or whatever. It was way before then too, because you had the first Congress, second Congress, the Confederate, the 13 colonies, the parent company, which was England, the mother company, they never got their full independence from King George. Was it George? I'm a little fuzzy right now from sleeping, so the name's gonna get a little thrown off. But the message is there. Just keep it reading. They were working towards getting their freedom. So that was them coming over here, not understanding what type of freedom they were stepping into. They just knew they didn't want to deal with that bullshit no more. As far as England and the outrageous usurping through taxes and the unnecessary fines and fees, the landlords, they were under a feudal system. Feudal system? Yeah. So, like I said, their laws, their structures, and how they operated was really not conducive to the people. And it's like, as I've been reading these banking books, I know I'm jumping, but it's gonna come together. And it's just like one banking book I'm reading from 1899 called I'm not been saying in paper currencies. What's that on? Banking and Negotiable Instruments. That's what it is. Banking and Negotiable Instruments. Because understanding like negotiable instruments when coming forward to the 1933 and how negotiable instruments were already in effect, especially like through the Bill of Exchange. And like I said, these books that I'm reading, I'm seeing actual like photocopies of bank ledgers and accounts and them balancing the books, and you know the Corporation of India and the British Corporation, and like they already had corporations in place way back in the 14 and 1500s and before then. That's because they were coming to study and learn at our feet, because we already had these civilizations running and dynasties running. So we already had our own system and laws running. That's where the Bible comes from, the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the 72 Laws of Maya and just those things of that nature. So understanding how the birth certificate, when the United States, when they came over here, they were already bankrupt because they was hitting up the private bankers, trying to get funding to fight against the king and also to leave. And it's like when they came over here, there was already $1 million in debt. I want to say the book that I was reading from out of the Congressional Library, The Sphinx of Thomas Jefferson, bomb ass book. Please read it, because that's where I got a lot of my information, like behind the scenes of how even the federal system wasn't even supposed to get enacted. Like it wasn't even, I don't even think it did get enacted. Like I'm gonna have to reread the Constitution, but that was one of the things like that popped up in there, and he had his qualms about it. And like I said, in that book, that's where they were talking about the debt that they had already owed to the private bankers. So it was already like over $1 million. They never bought the Louisiana Purchase because they didn't have the money, because they were already in debt. So when they signed the Constitution, it was 55 white males. Most of them were private bankers. So that's why it's important to understand banking, because when you understand accounts and ledgers and whose books, who's paying for what, who is funding it, and how are they funding it, and is it honorable and credible funding, not usurped, not conquered, because none of that is done in honor. So understanding when they did the usurp of authority, quick warranto by what authority? It's a writ, quick warranto. It's basically a writ, meaning by, is Latin for by what authority. Basically, who gave you the authority, and by what right do they have the authority to give you the authority to have authority over me? Because when you understand, like, license is permission. Who gave you the authority to give me permission? Who are you? You're not even from this land, and your laws are not to be governed on this land, because they are not our mother land's constitution. Is not our, those are not our laws. We're not England. So those laws don't adhere to the people. That's why you have the Treaty of Friendship and Peace and all the treaties that supersede the United States Constitution that was already in effect, that are still in effect. And that's why it's important to understand what your status is, because when they were changing the people's status on the record, which they had kept doing the $5 Indian, the one drop rule, and constantly changing the last name. That's why a lot of other cultures can tie it back a lot of theirs, but the melanated ones is very hard, and a lot of our records were burned. So understanding, what was that, Kuta Kinte, and being forced into being told that you were Toby. You're not Toby, you were Kuta Kinte. You were who your ancestors are. Ye not gods. Let us make man in our image. I look like my mama and my daddy. So because of that, that is my creator. So understanding that my parents were usurped and tricked out of their own power and not given full disclosure when they entered into these adhesion contracts via the birth certificates, and having their status changed from parent to informant. And now the all caps has now been created, and now there's a public entity attached to a private entity, because from the private realm, your birth being that living soul, your foot, and your mother's print and your father's print, but it's mainly the mother and the child, because the mother is the dowry. So she naturally is created in abundance to have what she needs to sustain that child, to know how to protect that child, make sure the child eats and clothes and has the necessary nurturing that it needs and learning that it needs to adapt to whatever environment that it needs to adhere to grow up in and sustain its living. So with the birth certificate, they went behind, and this is just like an overview, I'm going deeper into it as we go along, that it was behind closed doors, and Roosevelt went to the private bankers in exchange asked for something in return. United States corporation, not the republic, the corporation pledged the United States citizens as collateral for its debt, because we are the creditors. So that birth certificate, when you look inside the Constitution, it talks about the obligations being the debt, the debts being the obligations of the United States, and talking about how because they did this, that all debts are forgiven. And so that's when the Social Security account was created. And then around 1933, it changed from account to Social Security number. It's still an account number, still a 9-digit number. And that is attached to the estate, because the estate has been created with that birth certificate, which is a security collateral. It's a security instrument. So it's being traded. So when it has those signatures on there, now it's a negotiable instrument. Now it can be negotiated on the stock market. So now with us not understanding and being purposely indoctrinated to be told that you're a debtor, you're not. You're actually a creditor. But when you're told that you're a debtor and you're being forced to believe by those who are being forced to believe that they have to enforce certain laws, which are policies, but they're being told that they're laws. So it keeps this perpetuation of fear and ignorance going. So it's not really to point fingers, because the minute we start educating ourselves, it's nothing to point at, because you're coming back home. I self-law and master. I need no one to govern, because I self-law and master. The same molecular structure that is in the universe is in me. It runs on its own system. The sun comes up when it comes up. It goes down when it goes down. I breathe when my body breathes. I think when I'm meant to think. I sleep when I'm meant to sleep. Everything has a system and function, but when you're going against it and you're being forced against your circadian rhythm and being taught through religious dialect, religion, something that you do on a ritualistic basis. You brush your teeth every day is a religion. There's no woo-woo about it. That's why somebody can manifest with, I just look in the mirror every day. Some people can manifest with writing. Some people with candles. Some people with just sitting and being quiet. Everyone has their own form upon which they can make their matter create. They can make their energy turn into a form of matter to create something, because we're all here for a purpose. Everything matters. Nothing is not here for a purpose. So when you're dealing with this administration, you have to understand that you're coming from the ignorance into your God body of understanding I self-law and master. So now it's like you're being awakened back to yourself to learn how to administer your affairs, because you're no longer asleep. You're not lost at sea, the Securities trust. So being told that the inheritance is not been claimed, it's been abandoned, and you've been lost at sea, and all this blase splee, your ward of the state, and none of these contracts actually are binding, because it's an adhesion contract, and an infant cannot enter into a contract. And unless the parents were given full disclosure, this is not a binding contract, because for a contract to even be valid, the basis of it has to be a meeting of the minds. What mind did our parents meet? I was born in Detroit, Michigan. My parents didn't meet with the state of Michigan. I had my baby in Texas. I didn't meet with Texas. I didn't meet with Michigan. I don't have a wet ink signature. My wet ink signature is on it. So that's why I can claim ownership of it, because I am one of the parties of this contract. So that's all the authentication process speaks about, saying that you're already sovereign. It's not something you become, you already are. You're waking up to it now. We had to be put to sleep because everything has a purpose. So you had to go to your darkness and come to your light. It's not about why is this happening to me. It's about, what is this teaching me? What am I supposed to gain and learn from this form of chattel slavery? What happens when I'm not in my power? How did I even get to this point? So understand that everything has a purpose, and understanding that, yeah, it is that deep. You're a spiritual being. That's why some people want to stay sleeping. It's cool. That's what you want to do. That's your purpose to serve here on this planet, is to be sleep. Be it in its fullness. Because if that's what you have to evolve in your consciousness, don't let nobody knock you for what you're going through in that moment, because that's who you are in that moment. If you was meant to be anything else, you would be. Otherwise, you are that expression of what you are in that moment. That's it. Just let it be. So if you're going through some dark shit right now, let it be. It's supposed to. I was a victim of human trafficking for 14 months. I wrote out my whole constitution for my trust. I scrubbed through the Black Laws 4th edition while pregnant through all of this, mind you. And had my baby. Held her for 10 seconds and she was taken from me. And I went back to studying. Oh, I cried through the whole process. I cried through the whole process. I cried through the whole fucking process. I was so depressed. So depressed. My spirit was the only thing guiding me through it, because I knew that, yeah, this shit hurt right now. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, how many other people are going through this? So if I gotta experience this magnitude of fuckery to gain understanding and wisdom and experience, then so be it. Fuck it then. We here. Ain't shit else we could do about it. Like my daddy would always tell us, you got 5 minutes for a pity party. You gonna come, you can do it my way or my way. That was my daddy's biggest thing. What? Kicking or screaming or willingly. Either way you come. I'd rather come willingly. I've done the kicking and screaming and I'd rather come willingly. So, understanding, like I said, that it's not about becoming something. It's about the embodiment of it. You're being recalibrated right now into stepping into who you really are. And that's okay. It's gonna be rough. But that's what we're going through. When I had to go through my high priestess training and the dark shit that we had to go through, that I had to see, just because healing is not pretty. And sometimes it involves death. And you got to be able to face it on this path. Like my daddy would say, I'm here to help you to live, but I ain't here to help you die. And I got that same mindset. Because I grew up around him healing people that doctors was telling prepare for a hospice. You got 3 months to live. You got this much time to live. What? You know how mind altering it is to be told that you finna die? Like, we all know we gonna die, but now the reality of it. And then there is this supposed sickness that's causing a state of dis-ease in your body. And this foreign agent is coming in and causing havoc. Because you're not eating things that's either giving your body oxygen or hydrogen. Because it can't come through the carbon. We make carbon. Some people don't have it. That's where the melanin comes from. So it's like with understanding that you have to put the right things in your body, because on the cellular level, the food that we eat is the chemicals that we're being told that's food, until you get a hold of real food that's got like seeds in it, that you're preparing from scratch, or that's being prepared from as natural source as possible. So growing up around that and watching my father turn people's lives around, yeah, a few slipped through. I do remember one lady, a few of them did transition. One of them hit my dad really hard because he had got help. He helped her. I won't say he got rid of it. He helped her because my dad did not like taking that image. It was always an assistant, and that's the position that I take, that shaman approach. I hold space for you to heal yourself. I'm not doing it for you. Because if I die right now, you gotta have the skills and capability to pull it through on your own. Stand 10 toes. So it's like one lady did pass, but most of the other ones turned around. Met all type of politicians, the mayor's parents. From my daddy healing people, had great experiences. So I've seen the dark side of it, and my spirituality helps me see the spiritual side of things as well. So when people are coming to me and trying to gain understanding, and it's like they have outdated mindsets that is blocking them and causing cognitive dissonance, because they have to unlearn to relearn, because it's like their spirit resonates, but their ego, which has been indoctrinated, is causing an internal battle. And the only thing I can do is hold space for you while you bring that internal chaos to an order. Your chaos is always going to bring me order. Your demons are welcome here, because that's where your light sits. So if you don't go through darkness, how do you appreciate light? Demon means genius. So yeah, I was a victim of human trafficking. That was a very dark time in my life. It preceded me going through my first time ever going through domestic violence. And the amount of dark spirits that I was introduced to through that journey, I didn't understand their purpose. Now I have an appreciation for them. But in that moment, I never been through that before. I didn't understand why the fuck I was going through that. Now I get it. They showed up to show me that I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have self-respect. They were showing me where my weaknesses were and how I had gone so long without giving them attention that they've gone that big, because the negative demons are created by our own negative thoughts. So the more that you give your energy to it, the more it grows. So that's how they're conjured up and created from other entities. So your thoughts is a form of technology that creates an entity. So that's why it's very important to be mindful about what you broadcast, because you are a vessel. You're an energetic being. So that's why it's important to understand I self-law master, and the power that your pen is mightier than the sword. when you're signing these contracts. That's why things had a color code to them. Red was for private, gold and purple was for royalty, blue was for commerce, black was dead. So it's like understanding, like I said, I would definitely over time be going more into depth into certain topics. And if you have topics that you want to be more elaborated upon, definitely hit me up, because I love going into like foreign law. I love trust in the states. I love contract law. I love being a private attorney. I do spiritual advice, and I really love helping people with childhood trauma. Like I said, your demons are welcome here because they have a purpose. Kids that go through molestation and all these grown men that's sitting here hurting because they done been molested. And it's like, oh, I'm channeling. Because where the fuck did that just come from? But all these grown men that's out here thinking there's something wrong with them, or they're gay, or they like men, and it's like, no, your innocence was trespassed upon, baby. When somebody told you to suck it up and men ain't supposed to cry, or when you said something, they, oh, you ain't a boy, you can't take it. And it's like, what the fuck? Y'all really don't understand how much y'all messing these children up. Like, we focus a lot on the girls, but a lot more attention need to be brought upon our boys. Please, like, I'm such a big, major male advocate. It's ridiculous. Because, like I said, I'm very sensitive to energy and the amount of even just men that just come to me, I've never met before, that just come and pour their stories out about how they run into these toxic women that take their babies, they can't see their babies, and or how they've been molested by aunties or cousins, and they said something, and you know, their manhood get questioned, and it's like, this man was 7 years old, or little boys watching their friends get shot and expect to show up to class and be okay. You wonder why he's shell shocked or spazzing out or want to fight all the time, or the little boy that is watching his mama get his ass beat, or the other little boy is wondering, where's my daddy at? Or the other little boy that's wondering, why my daddy not happy? Why my daddy don't talk to me? Why my daddy don't love me? Why my daddy don't hug me? He here, but he not here. I don't know what that means, because he don't know how to process the emotional intelligence behind it. Because a lot of men show up physically to the materialistic realm, but don't know how to show up emotionally for their sons. And then when it's time for them to step into these contracts, they're overwhelmed and don't understand how to stabilize their energy and come across these big words, and nobody told them what these contracts and these language means, and these terms and conditions and stipulations, and now you get frustrated, or the other opposite, where he's just looking stoic but don't know what the fuck going on and too scared to ask for help, because then it's gonna get questioned or emasculated. And it's like, nigga, damn, I was just trying to figure out what the fuck do consideration mean? What does interest mean? What does security collateral mean? What does UCC mean? What does law merchant mean? What does emotional intelligence mean? What does boundaries mean? So it's like the understanding of how it all ties back in together, the understanding of understanding who you are within and so without, as above, so below. So when you understand who you are and you have the right guidance of your creators, let us make man in our image, ergo your parents, and if they weren't properly educated, you got the dead. You got the blind leading the blind. You got a tree growing dead fruits. So all these little fruits just rotting around here because they're not being nourished and fertilized properly. You're not taking the bullshit and turning it into fertilizer, the manure from all the trauma, but we sweeping shit under the rug and not teaching these babies how to contract, and what does promissory note mean, and what does account mean, and what does all these languages mean? But we're yelling at each other and fighting, and it's okay, because we saw what we are in our darkness. So where can we go from here? Only up. Anywhere outside of up is your choice. If you want to go further into your darkness and not pull the light from it, the consciousness, the wisdom, the understanding, hey baby, you got free will. But understand, this side is for those who's ready to step into their power of understanding who they are and their standing in their jurisdiction, and understanding their foreign capacity, their private capacity, and understand what trust in the states mean. So this series is going to go into the etymology behind things, and we're going to be pulling out dictionaries and gaining understanding, because if you don't have the understanding of what these words mean, what the fuck do a contract mean? Nothing. It means nothing, because if you don't understand what these words mean, understand that the etymology gives you the origin of the word versus the dictionary giving you the definition, the understanding of what that word means versus its origin. One's giving you how it came about, and the other one is giving you what it means and understanding. And there's so many different types of dictionaries, because you got commercial law dictionary, you got law dictionary, you got health dictionary, English dictionary. Like, understanding, yes, it's a lot, but you are the whole universe. So understanding that this is now a lifestyle now, because now I self-law master, you're taking over your affairs and you're managing your estate, and it's being funded by that birth certificate and the Social Security. And now it has to be put in the proper protected capacity for you to manage it and get things done. Because all debts are obligation of the United States. You're not supposed to be paying for nothing because it's already paid for through the Social Security number. As you as the executor to the trust, you understand how to endorse your agreements and understand negotiable instruments and bill of exchange between foreign countries who don't share the same currencies. So this negotiable instrument was a form of monies, currency, paper currency, for to exchange and balance out the books. So you understand accounting and ledgers and bookkeeping and accrue and credits and debits, and understanding you got to keep your minutes. So we'll go further into it, and I just wanted to get this out as like introduction, because this is going both ways of understanding yourself spiritually and yourself in the law capacity, to where now you are in good faith and credit, and you are here to manage your affairs and do your due diligence and balancing the books and balancing the debts and the credits and bringing everything back to a whole, and not being in a negative capacity, in a debtor's capacity, to where you don't know how to leverage and move in these markets, bear markets and stock markets and things of that nature, housing market. Yeah, it goes that deep. But we're gonna go there because I like this. Like, this is fun. Where the hell is my... So we gonna go deeper in understanding how, like, the Magna Carta I was studying stated you have a right to travel, no need for papers. And that's one of the things inside of the Constitution, that the supremacy clause, anything that supersedes the Constitution is still in effect. The Magna Carta is still in effect. So understanding charters and things of that nature, when you are in your proper capacity, that your status is corrected on the record, and you're not chattel, and you're not black or white or these labels. You're claiming your tribe, you're claiming your nation, or make your own. Like, you don't even have to be a part of that, because more than two is a nation. Like, there's so many ways to where you don't have to participate in the BS no more, because we already seen, like I said, let the dead bury the dead. I'm not trying to, I ain't worried about nothing they got going on. Fuck all that. Because tear down the government and all that shit, they doing a damn good job by themselves. I'm not here for that. I'm here for those who are wanted to be an asset to the further evolution of our advancement, not our detriment, not our downfall. So anything that does not contribute to our health, wealth, and betterment of self, like, kick rocks, move on. It's not over here. Not over here. I'm not with it. I'd experienced it, and I'll go more on my background too, with protect the confidentiality, so people gain an understanding of my background and how I got to where I'm at. Because I get a lot of people asking me, like, man, I didn't study with Moors. I didn't have to study Constitution back and forth. I didn't help people with criminal. I helped someone with bankruptcy. I got out of I sat in the holding cell for 72 hours. Didn't see the judge. They let me go. Like, the things that I understand, traffic court is not a real court. It's not constitutional. Child support. There's no contract. You don't have a contract with the state, so that child support is illegal. So it can't be you, the mother, and state of Michigan. It's not binding. Like marriage license, it's not real. Understanding common law. So I'm just throwing things out there to just help you understand, like, where we're going. And we're going to understanding knowledge of self, so that way you know how to maneuver in your proper capacity as a creditor. And you know how to contractually fulfill your obligations and duties, and you understand consideration and performance and agreement, and understanding how to tender your payments when you're in the right capacity as the agent on behalf of the principal, which is the trust, and you're the executor of that estate. For the next one. Yeah, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm getting sleepy. Chilling. Oh, 41 minutes. Yeah. So really sleepy. So, and I'm coming out of being in a very incubated state with spirit. So I'm still a little foggy and oh, he's choking the shit out of me. I'm not getting into your boys' business. But they're gonna be right back playing. They look like 7-year-olds. He's choking the shit out when they're playing. Like I said. This nigga is crazy, dog. Oh God, I love kids. They're retarded. Yeah. So, like I said, coming out of my baby died, miscarriage at the beginning of the year. So I had to go through that lesson of spirit, bringing death. Comes in many changes, and you have to accept. Death comes in many forms, and you have to accept the changes that it brings. And that's what I had to go through, the acceptance. So now, coming back into my light, and want to shed more light and help people shed their light on their darkness and gain their wisdom out of that darkness. Like I said, it's not meant to scare you, it's meant to grow you, it's meant to help you evolve. Out of the dark comes light. Don't fight. Like I said, you got 5 minutes for a pity party. Like, you gotta run around and scream, do what you gotta do. Willingly or kicking and screaming. I hope you choose to come willingly. I really do.